Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you all enjoyed the exciting day at NESCAC basketball. Joe McDonald here with Adam Lamont. We're going to do a little recap of today's action. Let's start with the Amherst Tough game. Really disappointing that we weren't able to get a live stream, but just looking at the stats, Adam, it seemed like the David George Connor Green show, which could have been expected. I talked a little bit this week in some of our articles about how David George had been letting me down offensively, and he responded in a big way. Double-double for David George, 29 and 8 for Connor Green. And on the flip side of that, Tufts got Hunter Sabetti back, but he wasn't much of a factor. 16 minutes and 7 points and 6 boards for Hunter Sabetti. So, Adam, what is your initial take on that game?
Definitely was not expecting a blowout. I mean, Amherst has been playing better recently, but to think that this was basically the exact opposite of what happened when they played back in January is just insane to think about. And the other one stat that sticks out to me, obviously Amherst shot the ball incredibly well. I mean, 68% from three, 13 for 19. So that was huge for them.
Yeah, for Tufts, the end of a really impressive conference run. Beginning of the year, they started off pretty poorly, and it was great to see them come on strong. On the other side, Amherst, we've thought all year long they've been one of the most talented teams, and they're starting to put it together. Laid an egg on Sunday against Middlebury, but today they showed what they can do.
Yeah, they're definitely hitting their stride at the right time.
Yeah. Also, next year will be interesting to see how Hunter Sabetti and Tom Pleshy develop with one another. But Adam, talk about the Williams-Bowdoin game. You were in the front row for that one. I'm sure you're real hyped to see Bowdoin pull it out.
Yeah, any raspiness in my voice is from yelling at Williams and the referees a lot too. But in the first half, it was John Swords for Bowdoin going up against Hayden Rookle for Williams. I mean, Rookle is just lights out shooting the ball. He is unbelievable. I think he was 7 for 7 from three in the first half, or 7 for 8. He maybe missed one, and then after that in the second half, it just turned into Lucas Hausman going bonkers all over Williams. And a big thing also, Hausman finishes with 37, and Aronowitz fouled out when he was the primary guy guarding him. He fouled out with about 5 minutes left, and then Rookle took over on him. He fouled out with about 3 minutes left, so that was big. Williams couldn't really mount a comeback without Rookle on the floor at the end of the game.
Yeah, we know that Lucas Hausman loves getting to the lane. He's great at taking those off-balance shots. He does a great job of forcing contact, so that's a huge factor. The other guy that Williams couldn't stop was John Swords. Obviously, he's a 7-footer. It's tough to stop him, but at times we've seen him disappear offensively in games. I saw Williams try to mix Elbron Flynn in there and try to slow down Swords. Nobody on the Williams roster could stop him.
Yeah, there's really no one who could stop him. I mean, Swords went 10 for 10 on the game, 23 points, 13 rebounds, even had 4 assists, a couple of nice passes that led to easy baskets. So he was definitely all over the place for Bowdoin.
Yeah, so great win for the Polar Bears. Now let's talk about the number 1 versus the number 8 game, Trinity and Colby, and that was a nail-biter, to say the least. Colby, with a chance to tie the game in the last second, Luke Westman, threw a full-court pass that got picked off with 3 seconds left. Adam, I watched the first half of this game, and I think you watched the majority of the second half. In the first half, something that I tweeted about was an 8-minute stretch where Ryan Jan, the Mules' leading scorer, was out and Trinity was only +2 over that stretch. And I thought at that time that was going to come back to bite the Bantams. But they were able to hold on to a 3-point lead. How did they manage to hold on to that lead in the second half?
A lot of it was Ed Ogundenko on the inside. He played like a grown man that he is. And besides that, the advantage for Trinity inside was just too much for Colby. And Colby clawed, fought like hell, and they were right there at the end. But it just always seemed like Trinity was in control of the game somewhat. And even when they had a 35-second shot clock violation with under a minute left, I don't think they ever panicked or thought that they were losing this game.
Yeah, impressive win for the Bantams. I think we saw the return of that vaunted defense that has that got them to the number one seed. But recently, they've been scoring the ball a lot better, not playing as great a defense. They did what they had to do though, and that was out rebound the much smaller Colby team. So big win for the Bantams. And the fourth game of the day was the matchup between Bates and Wesleyan. Adam, Bates is a main team, so you've seen them play quite a bit. I've caught snippets throughout the year, but I was really keyed in on this game. And what I noticed was Bates's propensity to give the ball to senior leader Graham Stafford and sort of get out of the way. And I think between him and Mike Bornese, they didn't come off the court, I think their fatigue at the end of the game might have been a big factor.
Yeah, Safford is used to playing the whole game, but he looked worn down. I just caught the very end of the game, and that one play where he got his shot blocked, and then B.J. Davis went down for the and one layup. You could just see Safford after the shot got blocked. He didn't try to run back on defense. He's just gassed. He had nothing really left in the tank, and he put it all out there. But yeah, it was not enough. Really really good game for Wesleyan. They're really coming together.
Yeah, and what you were just saying about Safford, that didn't happen in the first half. There was one play in particular that I'm thinking of where he drove the lane, forced a lot of contact, missed a shot, and it didn't affect him. He put his head down and ran back, and I really respect that. But unfortunately for Bates, Wesleyan was able to outshoot them big time in the first half. It was a messy first half, not great shooting, but they outshot Bates, and they were able to shoot well enough in the second half to win the game. The thing I'm worried about for Wesleyan going forward, and it can be a strength, is they have that three-point guard rotation sort of deal that they work with. B.J. Davis and Harry Rafferty didn't have great games. Jack Mackey had a very good game for Wesleyan. But what I am curious to see is if they get the ball, if they're down in a late game situation, who's going to be the guy with the ball in his hands? And I don't know if Wesleyan really knows that right now.
My guess would be Davis. He had one shot that put Wesleyan ahead in the final minute of the game a couple weeks ago, and he's definitely their best creator. He's the one who can get into the lane the most, so that would be my guess. Also, just looking at Bates, if you're wondering, they went 4 for 26 from three. So a lot of it's just making shots. You make a couple of those threes, Bates might be going to Hartford right now.
Mm-hmm. And one other thing to note here is that if there is a team from the NESCAC that has a shot at an at-large bid, it would be the Bates Bobcats because they were second in the Northeast rankings earlier this week. This loss is going to be big, obviously, losing to the sixth seed team. But they'll be on the bubble. They have a chance for sure. So the season's not quite over yet.
Yeah, their resume in a lot of ways reminds me of Bowdoin's last year, where they got out to this hot start, stumbled somewhat down the stretch, and ended up losing a first round NESCAC game. And Bowdoin still got in. Uh, Bates has a couple more losses than Bowdoin did at this point, but at the same time, Bates also has that Babson win that happened all the way back at the beginning of the year still holds up as a really big one in
And
non-conference.
Babson is the top team in the Northeast right now.
Yeah.
So I think if you're Bates, you're rooting really hard for Trinity to win and get that automatic bid, and then you're praying for an at-large. Real quickly, Adam, what's your first thoughts on the impending semifinal matchups? Firstly, between Trinity and Wesleyan.
Trinity and Wesleyan, they played just a couple weeks ago, and Wesleyan was really in control of the game for a little bit at the beginning, and Trinity just the way that they play sort of wears you down, and Trinity ended up icing it away with free throws. But there are two teams that both play pretty slow, both are defensive minded, so I think it's definitely going to be a close game. I'd be surprised if it doesn't come down in the final 2 minutes.
Yeah, I think it could be a close game. Trinity, as always, has a significant size advantage, but they also have very good perimeter defenders, which will be key against the impressive Wesleyan backcourt. And we'll talk about this a lot during the week, but I think there's a reason Trinity's the top seed, and they're on their home court, so expect them to be ready for this game. And then, Adam, your Polar Bears are going to be playing Amherst, who just had an incredible day against Tufts.
Against Amherst and Bowdoin, it's basically Lucas Houseman versus Lucas Houseman versus Connor Green, who can outscore each other, and then how does George slow down Swords on the inside? Last time these teams played, Bowdoin had just lost in overtime. They just lost in overtime to what's their name? They just lost in overtime to Trinity, so that was a tough loss for them, and I think they'll be ready, much more ready for this one.
Yeah, so it's going to be a great weekend coming up, the semifinals and the finals on Sunday. We'll have a lot of content out this week, so stay tuned. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the day, and we'll be back next weekend. Thank you, guys.